Probably muted last time. Hey everyone, welcome. How's Friday going? Hopefully it's awesome for you, and hopefully it's productive, and hopefully you're being really thoughtful about the weekend and how you're going to spend your time, and making sure that you are going to stay focused on what matters most, and stay aligned with your goals, because a lot of times, and we've talked about it before, it's the weekend. We use it as an excuse to throw caution to the wind, and we think, oh, there's something special about Friday. And we just came off of last weekend, long weekend, July 4th. So a lot of people had work off Friday, which means partying started Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday we came back to work and started to hopefully try to find some semblance of momentum, and trying to get back what maybe we had gained the previous week. So it's Friday, so definitely keep your guard up as you think about your plans to hang out and party and stay up late and all that kind of stuff. So we always work with our clients to make sure that they are very intentional with their time on the weekends, trying to be thoughtful versus just whatever goes. So we are, hopefully you know what we're doing by now. We are coaching live every single day. It's free. You can come, you can spectate on Facebook, you can participate through our Zoom platform. There's a link below to register for that. You can, by all means, you can comment, you can ask questions. If there's topics you want us to cover, then type those in the comments so that we know exactly what you want to hear about, and we'll do it. I've got no problem putting something together to make sure that we're getting you what you need and it serves you. So if you have been caught by this bug a little bit, and you're thinking about, hold on one real quick. 1 second. I'm going to change this background. I kind of changed the title of this a little bit late, my friends. And so here we are. All right, cool. Now here we are. How to break through plateaus. That's what we want to do today. We don't want to just hear about breaking through plateaus. We want to know how we can do that. And I think there's a lot of ways that we experience this, the plateaus in our life. And we hear it all the time. Sometimes we plateau in life itself. We just feel like we have kind of hit that wall. Things aren't maybe as fast and furious as we wanted them to be or hoped they would be. Maybe it's just kind of gone stale. And we just maybe are looking for a new adventure. Maybe we're looking for some new excitement. Maybe we just are kind of going through the motions. And that's really what characterizes this plateau, this kind of going through the motions, not really enjoying it, just this kind of staleness. Some people might feel stuck. Sometimes I typically characterize being stuck more with a feeling of overwhelmed, but a plateau definitely can have a feeling of being stuck as well. People plateau in their careers. They hit that level where maybe they just can't get to that next step. They're feeling frustrated. They feel like they don't know how to get to the next rung on the ladder. Or maybe they've reached the top rung and they're like, this is it. They got all the way to the top and it just isn't what they expected. And so maybe you're feeling that way. You're feeling that a little bit of that plateau there later in your career, or wherever it is that you're at in your career. Relationships all the time plateau. We see that time and time again. It can go stale. Certainly, it can be something that in the beginning is super exciting and hot and heavy, and then it can become stale. It can just kind of flatline and just become autopilot, going through the motions. Again, that's how I'm going to characterize the plateau. It's really this idea of being on autopilot, being in cruise control, just going through the motions, just kind of going from one thing to the next. You wake up in the morning, you do your normal routine, you go get in your car, you drive to work, you get to work, you do your thing, you come back, and that can be broken down into any of these major areas to where you're feeling like you're in a plateau. Our health plateaus, and actually really probably declines. Maybe that's an area that doesn't actually plateau, because I think we're either getting better or we're getting worse. And most of us are probably, I mean, we're all degrading to some point, right? As we get older, we deteriorate, or we lose um, some of our physical abilities as well in our health as things decline. So certainly you probably have felt a plateau, and that's probably left you feeling maybe stuck, feeling maybe frustrated, feeling maybe just, how did I get here? Maybe curious, how did I get here? Maybe you're feeling a little bit sad, a little depressed. Maybe at this point in your life, you felt like you would be different, something would be different. And maybe it's just not meeting those expectations. There's a lot of reasons that plateaus happen. I think some of it has to do with just diminishing returns. We throw all of our effort into our careers when we're young, we're excited, we take every opportunity and we pursue new opportunities with a ton of ambition and excitement. And then maybe we get those promotions, maybe we get those new opportunities, we experience things, and they just kind of fade. I remember when I was 16, I got a car, and I remember just the first, several months, um, I was washing it all the time. I was vacuuming it out. I was cleaning it. I was just taking really, really good care of it. But over time, I call it the principle of familiarity. It became really familiar, and I used it in the ways I wanted to use it, and it was fine. And I think maybe I, at some point, started comparing it to other people. You've heard us talk about comparison, how dangerous that can be. But I didn't care. And I would say maybe my thought around my car had hit that kind of plateau. So I think sometimes we just get diminishing returns from those things. Sometimes the idea of something is much more exciting and sexy than the reality of having that thing. And so sometimes we hit plateaus in that way. Also, sometimes we can just kind of be outshined by something else or someone else. We can feel like, maybe what I thought I would be happy with isn't now enough because I see what other people have. And now I'm trying to get over there, or maybe I'm trying to change lanes. I jumped in this career because I thought it was going to provide me everything. And then now I'm realizing that it's not this path I'm on. It's actually this path over here that's much more difficult. So I think there's a lot of different reasons that people hit that plateau. I also think, and probably the most common, is when we hit a plateau, it's usually because we've come face to face with some kind of fear. We're afraid to take that next step forward. And so we might find ourselves in a dead end job because we maybe have been passed over for those promotions, or maybe now we've reached the financial expectation that we had for ourselves, and we're just not loving the work anymore. And so then we go from there and we say, well, I want to jump ship, but I'm afraid to jump ship. And so we just stay. And certainly relationships can be that way as well. We can just kind of stay. We can be fearful of leaving, of changing, of maybe having the tough conversation. And so I think fear is a really big wall that plateauers, people who plateau, constantly kind of butt up against. And certainly it does take some courage to break through the plateau. There's also trade-offs that happen when we hit plateaus. It might be because we're giving all of our energy and effort somewhere else, and we feel like we don't have the time or the energy to actually give it to the area that we feel is the plateau area. And so the trade-offs might just be too costly. Again, can't jump ship on the path you're on if you feel like that path is way harder and more difficult. That would cost more money, more time, more resources. And so maybe we don't make that move. Now, when we hear people talking about, hey, I don't know what to do to get to that next step. I don't know how to get from where I'm at to over here. I feel like I'm just going through the motions. All of those things trigger for us in our model the plateau, the idea that in our model, you have to be consistent in our vision, our values, our beliefs, our habits. We've got to be really consistent there. We've got to be correct, meaning we've got to have the right tools, the right approaches, the right strategies. And then lastly, we have to be controlled. And that means we have to have a high level of intention and the right amount of intensity and effort. And so we know that those three components, consistency, correctness, and control, those all contribute to our ability to really perform in a manageable, sustainable way at a really high level. So if you're hitting these plateaus, that tells us that the way to dial it up is that control component. And remember, you have to have the right amount. We don't want people that are doing too much too fast, because that leads to overwhelm, burnout, stress. But we also don't want people who are doing too little. And a lot of times that's where our plateauers live. They're just not giving enough in a particular area. So let me break those down for you, right? The three areas is sometimes when you've hit that plateau, you need to put more effort in. You just need to work harder. You have to have more intention. If you want to stop going through the motions, you might just need to snap out of it, wake up a little bit, and start doing things differently, right? And that can get a little bit of a pop. I'll give you some examples in a minute. And then, of course, intensity. We might need to just turn that dial up a little bit and maybe tap into that passion that you had when you first started the job, or when you first met that special someone, or when you first really got committed to changing your health. You might have to tap into that and increase that level of effort and intention and intensity. That's the way you move the dial. So here's where I would suggest that you start. And what I love is Socrates said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So it's not about going back and fighting the old. It's about, okay, what do I need to do to build the new, to move myself forward in that right direction? And so again, we want to create performance that's manageable and sustainable, not for like a week or a day or a month, but for the long term. And so we always start, and I'd encourage you to start with your vision. What is it that you want for yourself? We talk a lot about having that really clear long-term vision and short-term vision. Okay, so and be very granular, be very thoughtful about what does that look like. Okay, that's what you can do right now. You can sit down and say, write out, okay, what do I want differently? Where am I at now? What do I want the future to look like? Whether that be 6 months, 18 months, a year, 5 years, totally up to you. The next is you want to identify that plateau area and set your intention and increase your level of intentionality. So what does that mean, right? Well, when you have dinner with your kids or your family and everybody's sitting there scrolling on their phones and nobody's interacting, you're just going through the motions. You're on autopilot. And of course, that's going to feel like something it doesn't give you anything back. But if you were to increase your level of intention, right? We're not adding anything to your plate. We're just saying, hey, now when you come to dinner, you're going to focus on the people at dinner. Maybe you're going to increase your level of intention. I'm going to ask more questions. I'm going to be more involved. I'm going to really try and, maybe it's make jokes, right? Get people, my intention is to make people laugh. We've got a joke that we do with our kids, a game that we created, which came from, okay, how do we make dinners more engaging? And so we have this little game where you stare at somebody at the table, you stare at them until they catch you staring at them, and then you have to switch, you have to look at somebody else. And so sometimes you'll be looking at somebody's ear for a good minute and a half before they catch on to you actually staring at them. Then when they look at you, then you look at somebody else, and it kind of goes back and forth. I dare you to do it. I dare you. But it's that level of intention. Okay. So same thing at your job. Maybe your job feels like a plateau. Maybe you've thought about the next level and the promotion. You're trying to get to that. But what if you dialed up your level of intention when you go to a meeting or when you take on projects? And maybe you just don't do the bare minimum. Maybe you don't just do what you've always done. Maybe you think, okay, how can I increase my level of intention to get more satisfaction out of this? And as you think about that, and as you start to put more energy into things, I know you're going to find that you're able to move the dial. And even if your position doesn't necessarily change or your boss doesn't, stand up and give you a standing ovation, you're going to feel more fulfilled because you're actually you're putting more into it. Okay, so raise the level of intention. Again, same thing with your health. You just having that level of intentionality. You can go to the gym and you can walk around and you can even lift weights, but are you really being intentional about it? Again, starting with that vision. What am I trying to achieve? And then thinking about that level of intentionality while you're there. Am I just, scrolling through my phone while I'm, doing this and that? Or am I actually like really thoughtfully going from one exercise to the next and monitoring my breaks, what have you? So that's just that level of intentionality. Again, we're not saying do anything new. We're saying do what you already do, but wake yourself up so you're not just going through the motions. Before you come into the house, when you think it might be crazy, just dial up your intention. Okay, I'm going to go inside. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to maybe look for things that will help out. I'm going to look for ways that I can engage the kids, engage my spouse, right? That level of intention, just turn that dial. When you do that, you're going to feel better. I promise. It's when we just sit back and we shift into autopilot, we start scrolling on our phone or we start just binge watching something. That's where we start to lose it. That feeling of stuck, feeling of not making any progress, that's where it really, really hurts. Third is put in more effort. Now you might be thinking already, well, hold on, that's exactly what you just said. You just said intentionality, and now you're saying just more effort. And what I'm saying is, in addition to the intention that you're going to set, you may need to add more effort. That means maybe you do spend longer at work. Maybe you do take on a bigger, heavier project. Maybe you have push yourself to have that really difficult conversation. So the intention is kind of how you're already going through the motions. You're waking up. You're saying, I'm gonna be more thoughtful through this process, through this situation, through this day, this whatever. Set an alarm on your phone if you need to remind yourself, hey, I'm being super intentional today about how I treat other people. But effort, that's where we might add some things to the plate. And you might need to tap into just doing a little bit more work. The challenge with control, that's our increased level of intention, intensity, and effort, is we have a tendency to push too hard, to push and try and do too much, too fast. And so you really do need somebody who's objective and external to be able to help you do that in a way that's not problematic. Do that in a way that's incremental increase. So if I'm not going and exercising at all, or I'm not running very much, then I decide to go out and run 30 miles and I haven't ran, then that's not what I mean by doing more effort. It's taking where you're at and doing a little bit more and dialing that up. And I promise you, as you do that, you put these three things together, you have a clear vision of where you're trying to go. You engage in every moment with a high level of intention, and you put more effort, maybe take on a little bit bigger load, then I promise you, you're going to break through those plateaus. You're going to see things happen for you. You're going to make things happen, which is an amazing feeling. And the plateau will be behind you. And the next time you hit a plateau, my friends, it'll probably still be for the same reasons, but now you'll have a bigger plateau, a bigger peak that sits on the other side of the plateau, and you can totally do that. So hopefully that's helpful for you. If you are, if this was helpful, if you know of somebody who is trying to break through their own plateau, they've kind of felt like they're stuck, tag them in this, share this with them, comment so that so that they can see it and they can get access to the same help that you just got. And if you're going to take specific action, I would love to hear about it. So tag it here, ask questions, and we'll make sure that we engage with you as well. Hey, you're awesome. Have a great weekend. Remember, no special days. Stay focused. Do what you got to do so that you don't lose any momentum by Monday. We will see you Monday.